In a year filled with video game adaptations, we finally got our first look at Zach Cregger's Resident Evil, a supposed in-universe movie following a medical courier trapped within Raccoon City during the midst of an outbreak. And on paper, that's pretty interesting, because instead of following fan-favorite characters like Leon, Claire, or Jill, you're throwing a regular guy into one of the most infamous events in the entire franchise. And as much as I love the core cast of Resident Evil, I'd rather not repeat Welcome to Raccoon City and butcher each and every one of their characters. As a Leon and Jill fan, I cannot go through that again. But from this teaser alone, it already feels like it's sticking to its survival roots and playing into the fear and anxiety of a city on the brink of ruin. Now, having somebody like Cregger writing and directing this film is semi-reassuring considering he's a fan of the games. Or, well, at least RE4, and you can feel bits of that influence here. Although, I'm not gonna lie, I think he might have slightly forgotten that the Raccoon City incident takes place on September 30th, 1998. A date that at this point is basically burned into every RE fan's brain. So I don't really get why there's snow or why he has an iPhone, but hey, he's doing a better job than the Call of Duty director right now by at least appreciating what came before. Honestly, the best way to go about it is that it's a similar but parallel universe to the game set in winter rather than fall, or at least that's my headcanon. Where its tone leans into the core of what Resident Evil has always been about, having someone perfectly normal thrown into unparalleled circumstances, forcing them to fight for their survival and persevere against the impossible. That's why characters like Ethan, Claire, and Leon stand out, because they started as everyday people thrown into utter chaos, cementing them not only as fan favorites, but somebody just like us. Where they're forced to survive by managing resources, progress through various zones, upgrade their arsenal, solve a puzzle or two, and somehow winding up underground.
Holy shit!
For some reason, Resident Evil games really love that. In this case, painting a cold, empty, and dark version of Raccoon City to show how its protagonist, Brian, is facing isolation with the fear that anything could be behind any corner. But at the same time, it keeps that campy RE charm, like him barging into some random person's home all willy-nilly to use their phone. It reminds me of OG RE4, where Leon just walks into this guy's home without knowing an ounce of Spanish and winds up throwing hands with them, which I wouldn't even be surprised if that's the inspiration here, considering it seems that this house belongs to some weird multi-legged creature, which he probably has to fight. And speaking of which, the creature designs look pretty cool so far. Typically when people think about Resident Evil, they just think it's about zombies, but it's always been a little bit more than that. Where the T-Virus's base infection is, yeah, your typical zombie, but it evolves over time into creatures like Crimson Heads, Lickers, Hunters, and Tyrants depending on the strain. So expanding on that concept by including unique creature designs is pretty cool. Big fan. Although, I'm not sure if the Fat Man is a tyrant or just some weird mutation, but it fits the campy tone considering he's built like a Doctor Who villain or the Duke. Although, I do hope we get to see some actual enemy types from the game, considering it would be a shame if a movie called Resident Evil didn't adapt some of its most popular entities. Where I hope the movie follows a steady progression into the depths of Raccoon City as this courier meets whatever objective he has to obtain. I'm not sure what it is exactly, but it's gotta be pretty important if he winds up going into the heart of the city, which is bound to be filled with monsters, military death squads, and total annihilation. I don't know, maybe it's for a cure or BOW test data. Maybe he works for Umbrella or a rival organization. There's so many possibilities, and I really hope it succeeds in its story. We've had way too many bad adaptations. I'm not even sure how, considering how simple the source material is, but God forbid someone tried to adapt the games properly. But if this is the adaptation we get without any of its iconic characters, then I'd rather them play into the aspects the series is known for, which it seems like they're doing. And since Cregger is currently on a winning streak from Barbarian to Weapons and now this, I really hope he once again succeeds. This small snippet feels like a step in the right direction, and if it's able to deliver, it'll bring newcomers to the series, just like what RE2 Remake did for me. And if it's able to capture the same feeling and tone as the games, then it'll truly live up to its namesake rather than some hollow cash grab like the adaptations before it. And if I wind up eating my own words once it drops, then oh well, so be it. If you made it this far, please like, comment, and subscribe if you enjoyed the kind of content I'm making. This is Balthazar, signing off.